What makes civil unrest spread? As we've discussed before, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. We'll find out on 30 June. But it does raise an interesting question. What is civil unrest and what actually causes it to spread? Civil unrest is generally understood as, and I quote, to include violent and non-violent groups such as riots, protests, and isolated and sporadic acts of violence. But there doesn't seem to be a single definition. Instead, there seem to be several which may be classed as forms of civil unrest. There are organized demonstrations, spontaneous demonstration, organized violent riots, spontaneous violent riots, general strikes, and limited strikes. Why do some grievances remain complaints on social media or around the braai for that matter, and others grow into protests and demonstrations and sometimes more than that? If we look at history, we can see that one of the common misconceptions about civil unrest is that it appears suddenly. Often it doesn't. Most periods of unrest are preceded by years of growing frustration. The specific issues vary from country to country and even from era to era. Unemployment, corruption, rising prices, crime, poor service delivery, and political dissatisfaction. The details change, but the pattern doesn't. People begin to feel that important problems are not being addressed. And I think even more important, they begin to feel that nobody is listening to them. History shows us that people can tolerate a surprising amount of difficult circumstances for surprisingly long periods. But what they struggle to tolerate is the belief that their concerns no longer matter. The normal channels are no longer producing results. Nothing changes no matter how often problems are raised. Does that sound familiar to you? So this itself doesn't automatically lead to unrest, but it does create fertile ground for it. The next ingredient is usually some sort of a trigger. It can be an event, a decision, a court case, a policy announcement, some controversial incident, or maybe some symbolic date. The trigger doesn't create the frustration. The frustration exists already. The trigger just gives it a focal point. It gives people something to rally around. Then group psychology starts kicking in. We've touched on this in the previous Fortis brief when we were discussing crowds. People behave differently in groups than they do as individuals. So when people believe they are part of a larger movement, their willingness to participate often increases. Emotions become amplified, messages spread faster, especially in today's age and time, and shared grievances thus become more visible. Suddenly, what appears to be or appeared to be a small issue begins attracting much wider attention. And then there is another factor that certainly plays a role, not always, but often enough, I imagine. Not everyone who participates in civil unrest is motivated by the same reasons. There are often opportunists at play. Some people do want genuine change. Some people just want their concerns heard. Some people want political outcomes. Some want economic outcomes. Some simply see an opportunity. Now, history is full of examples where legitimate grievances became mixed with entirely different and often nefarious agendas. Criminality, looting, score setting, political manipulation, personal gain. The list is long. Once all of those elements enter the picture, then situations can become far more unpredictable. And that brings us back to South Africa today. Why are the planned June 30 demonstrations attracting support from many sectors? The answer is probably not a single issue. I think the fact is that many South Africans are dealing with very significant pressures. Unemployment is absolutely unacceptably sky high. The cost of living just continues to rise. Many communities experience ongoing crime challenges, and these are significant, to say the least. Infrastructure and service delivery concerns affects millions of people every day, and increasingly, concerns around illegal immigration and border management have become part of the national conversation. The important point is that many people perceive these issues as real. It doesn't matter if it's correct, somewhat correct, entirely incorrect, they perceive it as very real. And perceptions influences behavior. If enough people share the same concerns, movements begin to form. This isn't unique to South Africa. It's a pattern that has repeated throughout history in so many countries all over the globe. At the same time, I think it is important to remember that frustration doesn't automatically become unrest and violence. Most frustrated people never become violent. Most demonstrations never become riots. Most people just want their concerns to be heard. And I think that is an important distinction. If you ignore genuine frustrations, that's not helping. But you cannot assume that every protest will become widespread unrest, because that is equally unhelpful. You need to ask questions and examine patterns, and you need to pay attention to what's happening on the ground. So what can we take from all of this? Civil unrest rarely appears overnight. It usually develops where things like frustration, shared grievances, some sort of trigger event, group psychology, and opportunity starts overlapping. If you understand these factors, it doesn't mean that you can suddenly start predicting the future, but it does help understand the environment, and that gives us options, because awareness helps people make better decisions. The purpose of understanding risk is not to become afraid of it. The purpose is to recognize it early enough that you still have choices. I'm Riaan Coetzee, and this has been the Fortis Brief.